Kush TV presents Sankofa, The Future of Black History, a unique Black History Month online series exploring all dimensions of time as we chronicle the Black past, command the Black present, and empower the Black future. Workshops include The Future is Black. Why is Black history under attack? With Shakara, We Create Value, the ingenuity of enslaved Africans, with Robin Walker, Ancestral Coding, Agriculture, and the Opobo Library Initiative with Aya Eneli. Quantum Field Theory as African Heritage with Asar Imhotep. For full information including dates and registration, visit gotkushtv.com. We have made history. We are making history. There is history still to be made. Sankofa, The Future of Black History. A Black History Month series not to be missed.
Tendai Mwadi be thankful unto the Mother, Father, creative life force of the universe. Kudzai Mudzimu Mukulu, give praises unto our great ancestors because our ancestors are worthy to be praised. Abibi Tumi, Abibi Fahodie, African power and African liberation for all African people. Welcome, family, for this special show that we have scheduled for you today. And we are just going to update you about what is going on in the African world as it stands right about now, kings and queens. Yes indeed. So as you come through, we encourage you to please like the video, and not only to like the video but share the video far and wide. Let the people them know, say Got Kush TV is live right here now, and we are discussing a very, very important subject matter, an extremely important subject matter, which is regarding the plight of our brothers and sisters, particularly in West Africa at the moment, and the solidarity that Africans, particularly in the United States this evening, although we understand and we know that Africans around the world are standing in solidarity with our brothers and sisters. You know, there have been protests around the world, including in the UK, where I am based, and we'll get into that in future shows, family. But today we're going to go live to New York, where a protest took place last week, Tuesday, outside of the UN building in New York. And so we're discussing now the issues to do with the recent coups in Mali, in Burkina Faso, in Guinea, and in Niger. Yes, and the extent to which our brothers and sisters have been rising up to challenge neocolonialism as imposed by the French in recent years. We will be doing other shows on this topic in the month of October. Stay tuned for more information on that. I will be giving you some more information on that throughout this particular reasoning that I'm going to have with our brother. But also be aware of the fact that following our conversation with our guest this evening, we are going to be also conducting our usual Zivanai show at 8 o'clock, our live chat show. And so that you will have the opportunity to interact if you would like to, converse more on these subject matters or anything that you wish to, kings and queens. Yeah. So in an hour's time, we've got our usual Zivanai live. And so I look forward to seeing you there. But for now, kings and queens, I'm going to introduce you to our brother, a good brother, and a son of another good brother who is now an ancestor. Let me introduce you to brother Nova Felder of the organization Bridging Africa and Black America, who were one of the co-organizers of the protest outside the UN a week ago. Greetings, brother Nova Felder. You're on mute, my brother. It's the most famous line on the internet.
Sorry.
Right now.
Peace, my black family, black power, African power, black love, or Bibi Fahodi. What's going on?
Yes,
good
sir.
to see you. Good to be in
Good
studio.
to see you, my brother.
Shaka. Yeah.
Yes, sir. I believe this is your first time on Got Kush TV, my brother. So this
No. You interviewed me back in 2019. Video
yes,
is
yes,
done well in the
yes, yes,
You
yes. You're
interviewed
right.
me
You're right.
right after I was installed in Ghana when we came to
Yes,
Leeds for
I
Black History Month.
remember. I
That was in
remember.
Leeds,
I
not in
remember.
Leeds. That was in Croydon.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes,
In
sir. Yes,
Croydon.
sir. I
Yeah.
stand corrected, my brother. Well, we give thanks for your return,
Yes,
to the
King.
platform, our good platform, our Pan
Yes.
African media platform based
Yeah.
in the UK. But just give our viewers who may not know who you are, just an idea of who you are.
Okay. Just simply, as he said, my name is Nova Felder. I'm also known as Nana Asari, Asamani the First, and Koswaheni of the Kingdom of Akwemufie in Ghana. But I'm also, as you see here on the bottom of our screen here, I'm also the educational program officer and vice president of Bridging Africa and Black America. That's a non-for-profit charity, social organization here in New York City where we work to put our people together. For those of you that don't know the demographics of New York City is one of the most diversely Black cities on the planet. We have Black people from the Caribbean, Central and South America, the United States, and of course, all over Africa, and even from India and Papua New Guinea and other places you don't think African people are. So we work towards the end to bring those groups together. I'm also a entrepreneur of a company named Africa is the Future. We design some clothes. We bring goods from Africa to here to the States. We believe in, Pan-Africanism as an action, as a verb, not as a noun. So we want to make sure we put money into the families and our Harambe groups on the continent. So we do that work. And also, I'm also head of an organization, the lead organization of lead organizer of an organization named the um, Evolved Harlem Merchants Coalition, where we do advocacy work around small Black businesses, street vendors, and we're actually developing some markets and some different things in the community in
Okay.
Harlem, the last bastion, kind of like a Black America. So that, I mean, and my dad, as Shaka said, my dad was an activist, author, and man of many talents, scientist that by the name of Dr. Jack Felder, who wrote a book called AIDS is U.S. Germ Warfare, with documents and proof that taught the Black world, global Black world, the issue with AIDS being made a bioweapon made to reduce the Black population. And
Yes, yes,
yeah, that
yes.
was back in the '80s, so that was about 40 years ago now. But yeah, brother,
100%.
we here. You know.
Yes, King. Yes, King. All right,
Yeah.
King. Give thanks. Yeah, much appreciated for being here. And the
Yeah.
reason why I brought you is because your organization,
Mhm.
Bridging
Africa.
Africa and
Mhm.
Black America, were
Mhm.
part of the organizing force
Yes.
of the protest. Yeah. Now the
Mhm.
protest was officially named France Out of Africa. I'm correct.
France out of Africa, U.S. and
Yes.
NATO too.
US and
Right
NATO
here.
too. All right, beautiful.
Yes, that's it.
That's important. So thank you for that. That is very important. So the protest took place last week, Tuesday,
Tuesday.
outside the UN building. Yeah. Now
Yes.
we're gonna get into the reasons why the protest was important in the first place. However, why did you pick that particular day and that hour, Tuesday afternoon, when everybody there at work? Why why that
So
day for the
so
protest?
so the main organization organizing the protest is December 12th movement. The
Yep.
December 12th
Yep.
movement is a core group of African elders and people here from the New York and the tri-state area that have been organizing for at least, I would say, 40 years. Most of them
100.
have been in the movement, over 50 years, right? Their lead, Omar Wally Clay, he's almost 80. So
Yes.
these people have been around for over 50 years doing the work in the community. So we chose the date as a collective, along with all the other organizations, because Emmanuel Macron, the so-called president of the Empire of France, the former Empire of France, was to speak on that Tuesday, right? Tuesday, I think it was the what date was that? The 19th,
19th,
18th,
the 19th.
19th. They were supposed to speak on the 19th. But unfortunately, he didn't speak. So we were trying to have the rally at the same time, and we're going to speak at the same time he was speaking. He wound up not coming for probably a host of many reasons, the changing nature of the world. So that's why it was at that time. And let me also say this: the important thing was that all groups used that 47th Street and 2nd Avenue entryway to protest whatever they in grief, whatever their needs are from their prospective governments. I saw Chinese people that were protesting against the Communist Party, that were meditating and doing yoga and qigong and tai chi. There, we had the Iranians that don't agree with the current government in Iran were out there. You had Ukrainians out there in support of Zelensky or against Zelensky and what's Ukraine in Russia. So you had various groups on that day and all the days of the UN General Assembly, because this time of year, usually from the middle of September to the end of September, you have the UN General Assembly where the Security Council members and all the 190 something members all come and converse about all types of different issues. And many of the presidents that of the countries that you named even spoke. The president of Guinea, they had a recent coup in the last few years. He spoke, he gave some powerful information and things like that. So that's why we chose that Tuesday.
That Tuesday. Okay. Yeah. And so what was the aim and purpose of the protests? Now that I've given the context so people understand what was going on at the UN building that day, what was the purpose and the aim of the protest?
Simply to bring attention internationally to the issues of not just France's exploitation of Africa, but Europe's exploitation of Africa in particular, and America, because America is the child of Europe. We cannot forget that. So 100%. What I'll do at this moment, I'll read the official statement that we all co-signed so that people can get an idea of what's going on.
Yes, sir.
France out of Africa, US and NATO too. We, the undersigned, express our firm solidarity with the revolt against French neocolonialism sweeping across the African continent. We stand completely opposed to a Western-backed ECOWAS intervention and sanctions in Niger, and further oppose the ongoing sanctions and pressure campaign against Mali, Burkina Faso, and Guinea by the United States, the European Union, and other nations. Across the African continent, particularly in the Sahel and West Africa, millions of exploited and marginalized people are rising up, demanding a future free of abject poverty and neocolonial subordination. In Niger, 43% of the country lives on less than $2 a day. 83% of the country lives in rural areas, but only 9% have access to electricity, and 54% of Nigerians have no access to clean water. Similar statistics could be quoted for nations all across sub-Saharan Africa. This is the context for the military transitions and popular uprisings taking place. This is despite the fact that these nations produce hundreds of billions of dollars of wealth for non-Africans every year. Changes in government are only possible because of the burning desire among the masses for a change in the system. France, the United States, and various African leaders are extremely hypocritical in their denunciations of the civil military governments in West Africa. France and the United States only care about democracy when it affects their puppets. For instance, they fully supported the French-backed coup that installed the current Ivorian Côte d'Ivoire president Alassane Ouattara in 2010 and made not a peep when he illegally ran for a third term and suppressed working class Ivorians with brutal force in 2020. France in particular has used the CFA franc to keep West and Central African nations undeveloped, and from ports to mineral deals, force African countries into deeply unequal economic relationships. Despite their boats of so-called aid, in 2021, aid to Niger amounted to $1.30 per week per Nigerian. Only 7 cents were spent on education, 15 cents on supporting healthcare services, appealing to democracy, quote unquote, blaming Russia and various other excuses are born out of desperation as imperialism loses its grip on the African continent. The military forces of the NATO countries are no longer able to enforce a deeply unequal order. Africans understand what's going on and won't take it any longer. French neocolonialism is the most odious manifestation of a broader set of policies backed by G7 nations to keep Africa in virtual chains. The uprising against it is the first step in removing those shackles.
Beautiful. Thank you for that, my brother.
Yes.
So we've got a lot of context from there. Is there any way that the brothers and sisters can read the statement? Go back and read the statement.
Yeah. You can find it on www.d12m.com.
All right.
I'll put it out as we go through. I'll put it in the I'll make
put it in the private chat, because if you post it, yeah, so I can post it. Yeah, so yeah, because it won't jump if you post it. Yeah, so you can go read that statement yourself, brothers and sisters. Yeah. Now, an immediate question, my brother. It might sound like a strange question, right? But some people are going to be wondering, and I'm sure you might have heard this yourself. Well, why are African Americans, and some even are rejecting that terminology right now? Yeah. Why are Black Americans? Yeah. So interested and inspired to come out and demonstrate about what's taking place thousands of miles away on the African. What's it got to do with UNO? Don't you have enough issues in Harlem and Bronx, and LA and Atlanta, yeah, and so on? Why you so hip up about Wagwan in a Mali and them things?
We do, whether they call themselves Africans in America, African Americans, foundational Black Americans, and all of these other new age terms that people hear. Africans born in this country are calling themselves. Some of us are calling ourselves Moors, indigenous, all of these things. But why it's important to us as a collective, one, we must remember that Pan-Africanism in its modern context is a creation of the Western Hemisphere. But the Africans that went through slavery and colonization on this side of the world, people such as Marcus Garvey, H. Sylvester Williams, W.B. Du Bois, Kwame Nkrumah, came to consciousness here in the Western world, and as a buttress to Pan-Europeanism, right? What they have dubbed, many have dubbed white supremacy. I call it white supremacy and also white dumb-premacy. But so us here in the West, in particular the United States, have always had Africa on our minds, shall we say, have always saw ourselves as part of the larger African family. And in particular, the United States is an important place because it is the seat of the beast. It is the head of the beast. It is, we are literally in the fire. I don't even call it Babylon. I call it beyond Babylon, because I think some of the things that are happening here on these shores today, Babylon would scoff at and think we're crazy. So we're in a beyond Babylon state. So I think we've always had that energy, and we understand that when you strike at things here, in particular, New York City. New York City is the economic capital of the Western world. It is the economic capital of the United States. Washington, D.C. is our federal capital, or the federal capital, excuse me, but it is not the economic capital. And with capitalism, as we know, economics is at the core of what capitalism is about, right? 100. It's politics, and all of its other things support the economics. So going to the UN in New York City, or when we protest and we go to Wall Street and we go to other key financial areas or political areas in New York City, we are literally, just like when, last year I was in UK, we went to City of London. We did some beautiful tours with our brother Daryl, so us being there, that's the heart of the beast, I would say, in the UK, right? So being in New York City, being at the UN, on stolen land, we have to always remember that land was not given by the Rockefellers. It was stolen by other Europeans, bought from other Europeans by the Rockefellers, and then ceded to the UN for white dumb-premacy and white supremacy to continue its hegemonic rise and domination over not only African nations, but all other nations. And we must remember working class people in the world too. Many of the plans that whether it's the WHO, World Bank, are hatched there at the UN during this time of year. So that's the significance of the United States. It's not about that the United States is such a power, but it is the military wing, economic wing of the European race. So us here organizing for ourselves, whether that's against police brutality, whether that's for what's going on in the Sahel, whether that's what's going on in any part of the world against working class people and African people, we see it as imperative. Those of us that have reached that political maturity, and that's why it's important, and that's why we do that. Yeah.
My brother, yourselves as the organizers have seen fit not to only highlight France, but specifically highlight America and NATO. Now, many brothers and sisters may not be particularly cognizant or aware of America and NATO's relationship to what is taking place in French-speaking Africa as it stands at the moment, because obviously the French connection is the most obvious one, because a lot of these nations were formerly colonized by France, and it's easier to explain France's economic relationship with these nations, for example, through the CFA franc, through the uranium as far as Niger is concerned, and the extent to which France benefits from that in terms of its electricity, etc. But why are you throwing NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and the American government into the mix? They're not involved in this.
What we must understand, right? So let's talk let's talk like we from the hood, right? We got to understand,
yes,
right?
Sir.
We got to understand, right? If I'm on my block and this is my territory doing what I'm doing, you on your block and you on your territory doing what you're doing, but me and you work together, right, for the larger good of whatever activity that we doing in the hood to make our ends meet, right? So, and when an outside force is coming, right, let's just say them from over there is coming onto our territory, right? Me and you gonna sit down, Shaka, and be like, yo, you can't have that, right? We got to make sure that our blocks, these several blocks we control, are right. So we got to put our people, our boys together, right, to make sure that our territory and our business and our whatever we're trying to do stays the same, and we're able to exploit what we're exploiting, because these people want to infringe. So when we look at the relationship of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, basically it's a nation, it's a pan-European, once again, white supremacist nation sticking together, right? Not banding together for protection, because at the end of the day, collectively, they have the most nuclear weapons and bombs and planes. And so United States has over 3,500 planes in its Air Force. It's by far the largest Air Force in the world, right? By far, right? The only people that can compete at that level, we're talking about Russia and China. Other than that, geopolitically, the United States, along with the other European nations in that treaty organization, they band together for white supremacy. They band together wherever one white country is under attack, all white countries are under attack. And that's what we have to understand. And we're trying to get this operational unity amongst ourselves, socially, politically, economically, and militarily. That's what's going on in the Sahel and other parts of West Africa right now. And that's why, remember, we have militarily, France just said they're going to bow out this past Sunday on the 24th. Macron has capitulated to the demands of the citizens in Niger, right? To the citizens, said they want France out. They've blockaded the military barracks. They've also blockaded the French embassy in Niger, and they won't even let food come in and out. So they're intent on getting France out. But now we have to understand the larger picture is the United States has a drone base in Niger, right? So we have to understand that that's interconnected. We can't just look at France as France and the United States as the United States. They 100%. Might be politically separate entities, but we're talking about operationally, they have operational unity. France is the United States oldest military ally. If it wasn't for France, the United States as we know it today could not exist for
Yes,
more
sir.
than one reason. They
Mhm.
they're the ones that backed them and gave them some kind of sea protection when they went
Mhm.
to war in 1775 with the British Crown,
Yes,
right?
sir.
And King George for their independence. They actually just wanted to control slavery in the way they wanted, right? That's why in
100.
their constitution they allowed slavery and made African people to this day 3/5 of a person. So,
Yes, sir.
and then after the 1803, 1804 a victory of our brothers and sisters in
In Haiti.
Haiti,
Mhm.
right? France was in such dire straits economically because Haiti was the jewel of the Caribbean. That was the name of it. It was the
Mm.
most successful colony in the history of colonization.
Yes, sir.
To
Yes,
this to
sir.
this day, they have
Yes,
rare
sir.
earth elements that the United States and the West are fighting for, and,
Yes, sir.
and all types of things in Haiti, still to this day. So
Mhm.
we have to understand they sold because they were in economic straits. France literally controlled maybe what now is about the United States. I would say about 1/3. They
Of
bought the
the
United
United
States
States.
paid X amount of millions of dollars,
Mhm.
in the 19th century to buy the
Mhm.
lands west of
Mhm.
the Mississippi that France
Yes, sir.
controlled. And that they controlled
Sir.
that from the North Atlantic all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. So they
Yeah.
sold that to the United States. So the United States to this day would not be the United States without their relationship with France. That
With
cannot be
France.
forgotten.
Yeah. 100%, my brother. Thank you very much for that. And let's get to some of the more current news at the
Right.
moment. As you just said, yesterday we learned, or was it the day before yesterday?
It was
Yesterday, I
Sunday,
believe it was.
24th.
Yes, right.
Mhm.
That we learned that the British, sorry, the French government are withdrawing, yeah, their troops
Mhm.
from Niger, recalling their ambassadors and so on, yeah,
Yes.
in response to what has been taking place. And I'm going to come back to this issue of the people on the ground, and the fact that it's a people's demand. Yeah, we're gonna
Yes.
talk about that in a second. But just give a perspective on how we as African people around the world should view this particular move by the French government. Should we see it as a small victory in the midst of an ongoing battle, or should we be skeptical about this move and what it represents?
I mean, I think we can kind of combine both perspectives. I don't think we have
Right.
to take it either or. I can think we
Hmm.
can take it as a both and. We have to
Hmm.
understand that we are at war. We've
Yes,
been
sir.
at war for thousands of years. If we don't realize that, that's because we've been ahistorical and apolitical for too long.
Hmm. Hmm.
So you have to understand when one side, it's just like chess. This is not checkers. This is not
Mm.
Connect Four, right? And
Mhm.
any simple card games that we like to play, right? This
Yeah.
is the geopolitical monster of chess, right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
France, this is why Macron didn't come to the General Assembly, because
Right.
there was going to be so much heat on him around what's going on, and he had so much business to take care of back home. He had to stay
Mm.
home. Sometimes, like, with the wife and kids are going through what they're going through, you got to stay home. So
Yes. Yes.
the,
Yes.
the French family, right? The French
Mhm.
syndicate, right? The French crime family, right? The
Mhm.
new French crime family, they overthrew the royal crime family, and they
Mhm.
established the political crime family, right?
Mhm.
But that French crime family had to get their ducks in a row, because they're saying, well, okay, we're going to make a move that makes it look like, you know,
Yeah.
we're backing down. But you best then
Mhm.
believe the second part of
Mhm.
this, right? Why the second part is true, which you've
Mhm.
said, which you've asked. They are what you call, it's a retreat. It's a strategic
Mhm.
retreat, right?
Right.
We'll pull
Right.
our troops out, right?
Mhm.
Yes, but remember, America is still there, right?
Right.
Remember, other European nations, and you understand, because somebody says they'll do it, maybe they'll
Mm.
leave, the intelligence units. Maybe they'll
Mm.
leave certain things in place, right?
Mm.
And of course, now they'll lean more on the Americans that already have a military base there, right?
Yeah.
They'll
Yeah.
lean more on, maybe, I don't know, I'm not 100% sure if Israel has a military base there, but these are all
Mhm.
allies. So they're going to work another angle in order to
Mhm.
come back and
Mhm.
maybe overthrow this current government, cause
Right.
some other type of destabilization. Because one thing that we as a people, why I said in particular, we have to become a historical and a political people to understand the reality of what's going on. Everything that you see, right? That's like the tip of the iceberg, right? And that's only about 10%. What's below the 90% is what we have to extrapolate and pay attention to, right?
Yes,
And we have to start getting our news not just from Western sources. We have to look at all and alternative sources of news, and we have to communicate more like this. That's why I love whenever I'm on anything international. This is how we win, right? We debunk we debunk the lies that we've been told about ourselves historically, what's going on politically, and we also, debunk the misconception that African people are not unified and we don't stick together. So we have to use these platforms and develop our own platforms outside of this to be able to communicate, because how they pigeonhole us and control us is by controlling information. So
yes, sir.
so we have to remember that this is just, it's both and on this. Yes, we should take it and be not necessarily happy. It's a strategic victory of the people of Niger and the African people globally. But we also have to not get so happy about it. This is not a world championship. This ain't Man U, versus like Liverpool or whatever and whatever. No. That's not what this is, right? This is perpetual war. We have to understand this is a perpetual war for the domination of Africa resources. Dr. John Henry Clark always said Africa has always had. So Africa has always had to deal with people trying to take what we have. And we have to understand that that was true during the time of the Hyksos over 2,500 years ago in ancient Kemet, as it is true today, right? Kemet was the breadbasket of Europe, of the Roman Empire, right? So till this day, Africa is still look at all of these devices we have now. We have all of these devices. What you're talking of, these rare earth elements that are the coltan, the cobalt, the iridium, the gold, and all of these things that are going to SpaceX, that are going to NASA, that are in the cosmonaut program in Russia, in China, right, in India. These things could not exist. This technology could not exist without two things: what's under the feet of the Africans on the continent, and what is in the minds. The real key is what's in our minds is the vibranium, right? We're at key places in all of these developments of the cell phone, right? Of space technology, the Mars rover. We have Black people, African people, all involved in these things. But without us and without our mineral resources, this world could not be what it is. We love our LED TVs, we love our smartphones, we love our laptops, we love our iPads, all of these things. So we have to understand. Remember, France is powered by Niger. They were taking uranium out of the ground and paying 80 cents of a euro per kilo. The spot price on average is 200 euro. 200 euro per kilo. So we have to understand that level of exploitation, right? They do not want it to end, right? It's like when you're getting something free, you never want it to end. And that is what we have to be on the lookout for in the coming weeks, months, and years to keep fighting.
My brother, there's a lot of talk here. And by the way, before I ask you this next question, let me just say that in the month of October, we are going to be doing 2 shows dedicated to analysis on this topic. And so I want to encourage brothers and sisters to come through to those 2 shows. Let me just bring up the information for you right about now. Hold tight, family. So first and foremost, on the 31st of the 10th, which is October, we will be engaging part 1 of our show, of our series, France Must Go, Uprisings in West Africa. On the 24th of October, we will be engaged in part 1. And on the 31st of October, we'll be engaged in part 2. Part 1 will be a breakdown, and I'll be accompanied by our sister Kushti for both of these shows. And so Sister Kushi will be giving a very basic breakdown of the situation in West Africa and what has brought us up to this point. Yeah. And we're doing this because a lot of the times people, when it comes to geopolitics, a lot of times it goes over people's head. And so we want to just break down some basic information that you need to know in order to have an understanding of the deeper conversation, which we're going to have on the 31st in part 2, where we're going to have a panel of brothers and sisters who are going to be delving into a geopolitical analysis, yes, of what has been taking place in West Africa and the implications for us going forward. And whilst I'm here, I should also just announce that we are also doing 2 shows commemorating the implosion of the Grenada Revolution in 1983 and the assassination of Maurice Bishop within that context, brothers and sisters. And so do come through to those shows. Also, you can set your notifications now. And finally, as far as announcements goes, we will be convening for Zivanai Live, yeah, directly after we conclude with Brother Nova. So do stay tuned and set your reminders for Zivanai Live. You can do so right about now, or just stay locked in and you see us when we go live. If you are not subscribed to Got Kush TV, subscribe to Got Kush TV and like this video if you haven't done so already. We are your #1 Pan-African media platform coming out of the UK, and we are going to do our best to keep on top of this issue within the context of our resources as it currently stands. My brother, you will be aware that there are a number of debates taking place at the moment because African people, well, Pan-Africanists more specifically, are very skeptical of military leadership, yeah, especially on the African continent, because we don't necessarily have a very good history, yes, with this particular phenomena. And whilst there is enough evidence for us to know that our people in Mama Africa, specifically in these nations and the other French-speaking African nations, have been rising up for a significant period of time at this point, yeah, there is some skepticism around whether we should be putting our faith in military juntas, so to speak, yeah, and there are even nuances. So some people are like, well, boy, you know, this brother over here, so him look like him have something go on, but this one I'm not sure about this guy over here, yeah. then now there's been another one which people are not speaking about as much because the dynamics appear to be different in Gabon. Yeah. So right. So from the perspective of yourselves as Bridging Africa and Black America and many of the other organizations that are involved, what is your reading of that situation, and what could you share with our viewers on those dynamics?
So what I'll say in terms of military juntas and being in charge, right? I mean, you live in a military junta called the UK. I live in a military junta called the United States of America, right? At the end of the day, like, if you can't, you know, defend yourself, right? And at least in the republics in which we live, at least here in the United States for sure, the president of this country is not only the president of the federal government, right?
Yes.
He or she is the commander-in-chief of all unified military sectors of the military, you know, all 100%. Sectors of. So we have to understand that every nation has to be able to defend itself. Now, how things play out on an individual level on each country, what's really going on behind the scenes, I mean, things have to play out. I would hope that the nations at hand are serious about counterintelligence and their own intelligence to understand what's really going on around them, the countries surrounding them, and on a global scale. So you have to be very, you know, cautious, of course. But at the end of the day, we shouldn't fear the term militarism. We shouldn't fear the term self-defense or self-offense. I mean, if I know you coming for me, I'm gonna come for you first. And I think, you know, Africa for too long has been, you know, kind of, you know, at least in our time where we've grown up, right, has been very, you know, de-toothed, as we say, right, as some say, like not looked at as a strong military. Now, you know, having a physical military and having a 21st century military are two different things, right?
Two different things, yeah.
I think having that strong show of force on the ground um, will go a long way to making the people feel safe, making the people feel that, that things can change. I mean, the young brother, commander of President Traore in Burkina Faso, his government has already, the last few, year or two, have already like paved 7,000 kilometers of roads that were not paved or were poorly paved from before. So, there is a benefit to militarism, and we have to understand, these republics, these are not democracies, right? This game of democracy, just like in our statement, our collective statement, it says that, you know, you have these situations where you have countries that are calling themselves democracies, but what, it's a democracy to benefit whom, right? In the United States, we don't elect our president, right?
100%.
The electoral college elects the president, right? We back in 2000, we had a president was elected, Al Gore, with the popular vote, but the Supreme Court made George Bush II the president. So what I mean, there's not here in the United States, we don't even have a direct rule democracy. We have a republic, right? You have a royal kind of republic parliamentary system in the UK. Most of Europe has a parliamentary system, where they're elected. So these are quasi democracies, right? Africa, actually, where democracy evolved from, and our cousins over here in the United States, in particular, the Iroquois Nation, which is on the land that I'm living at in New York City. That land was Iroquois, Lenape specifically, but part of the Iroquois Nation. We developed real democracies. We have a council of elders and conscious individuals and experts, and we rule from that perspective. So the idea of having a military rulership for a time where things can be destabilized easily from the outside, I don't think is a bad thing. I just think that the people in Africa, I've always called for this since, my consciousness as an adult has risen. I've always called that Africa is the last place where I haven't seen, in a modern context, a people's revolution. And I think these are the seedlings, the inklings of a people revolution are bubbling up, are growing, right? And I think the people ultimately in these countries, as the people are calling for, in Nigeria, people are calling for Tinubu to step down, right? That's someplace we have to watch very carefully.
Very carefully, yeah.
Because from the reports I've read and people I've talked to on the ground, Tinubu did not win that election, and the people know that he didn't win the election. So the people are going to have to make a decision of what they're going to do. In Niger, the people, as they advocate for France to leave militarily and politically, they have to also watch their own. We can't just, put the ball down and just celebrate because one of our own is in charge, right? In New York City, we have a black mayor. We have a position called the public advocate, which is almost like the vice president, the second in command in New York City. In the state of New York, we have a black attorney general, the lead prosecutor in New York State, and we have, if not hundreds, dozens and dozens of state senators, state assembly people, city council. A third or more of the city council is black and brown people, but we persist with the conditions that we have been under, the oppressive conditions. So just because we get black faces in high places, that's a term from the 60s, black faces in high places, right? That doesn't mean that we as the people stop organizing ourselves.
100%.
Organization will get us what we want, right?
Yes, sir.
And if we have to organize against people that look like us to get us what we want, we must continue to do that as well.
To do so as well. I agree, brother. Thank you for that insight. And brothers and sisters, we've got about 15 minutes left with Brother Nova. If you have a question or a comment that you would like read out during the course of the next 15 minutes, please at GotKush TV in the chat, at GotKush TV, and I will be able to see your comment and read it out. And if it's a question, Brother Nova, I'm sure we'll answer it. My brother, we got you on because you were one of the co-organizers of the protest that took place last week, Tuesday. Just giving our brothers and sisters an idea of the protest itself and the dynamics of the protest. You can watch it online, brothers and sisters. France Out of Africa protest. You can watch that on YouTube. Feel free to go and do so. But yeah, giving our brothers and sisters an idea of the protest itself. And in doing so, to what extent is the African community in general and the Pan-African community in particular in the United States galvanized, mobilized, and or organized around this issue?
Yeah, well, let me say the protest went very well. We had about anywhere, I would say, from 150 to 200 people on the ground.
That's pretty good nowadays, my brother. That's pretty good nowadays.
Yeah, the people came out. Different organizations can. That's why we have to have that operational unity. And we've had two or three other protests before this one. We had one at the French consulate, and then we had another one at the French embassy, because they have a consulate and embassy, two different locations here in New York City. And then I think we had another protest somewhere else. But so that was three before, and these things were kind of called like at the last minute, right? And they were all well attended. And more so, I think what the things that people said, the organizations and the organizers that were there on the ground, and the things that they reminded us of. And I would say the overarching message was that the common people, the working class, are all struggling with the same thing. We had organizers from Cuban organizations speak. We had organizers from the Party for Socialism and Liberation speak. So it's a real conglomerate of orgs that are not just African focused, but they're focused on rising up the working class, the regular Joe and Jane, out of this
or Jomo and Akusua, so to speak.
Right. The average person out of the conditions that they're in. Just excuse me. We all got our different hats and everything.
I know,
our Kwames and our of course our coasts. But so the Pan-Africanists and Africans the like are seeing the forest from the trees nowadays, and we're kind of trying to work together on better terms. One thing I will say that I was disappointed with, right, because we also have to criticize ourselves, right, to get better, right. In a city, like I told you at the beginning of this talk, New York City is one of the most diversely Black cities in the world in terms of different groups of Black people from different places. So, my expectation was that, especially with my organization's reach, we do a lot of work in the African community, specifically in the Bronx. Bronx is like little Ghana, you got little Guinea, you got all of these West African enclaves, and people live together in the Bronx. So we did a lot of outreach in that area to get people to come out. And some people came out that are politically conscious, but not enough people. We have, I don't like the term, but we have hundreds of thousands of Francophone Africans here in New York City.
Yes.
Hundreds of thousands of people from West Africa here in this city, right?
Yes.
So, and let me just buttress with this. My organization did a protest last Wednesday on the 20th, right? It was anti-police brutality. On the 9th of September, young brother from Guinea was killed by the police in the Bronx. So my organization, its founder, my brother Abdullah Cisse, and the brother Mamadi Cisse are from the same country, not the same family, but the founder knows the family. So we reached out and we said, if you need representation, we'll be there on the ground. We asked for their permission to do a rally, and we did a rally, right? And about, I would say, 75 people showed up to a very white, very racist section of the Bronx. Mostly African people from Guinea and from other parts of West Africa. And that was a beautiful show of force, right? And we, not to let the cat out of the bag, but that, I guess the city saw that as negative press because some press agencies came out. News 12, local affiliate in the Bronx, came out. New York, NBC News for New York City came out, and a few other local news stations, and people came out to that, right? And because they see that this young brother's death was unjustified, or we don't even have answers. We never saw the police camera footage. We never saw any of the footage, CCTV footage from inside the 7-Eleven store. That's like our little Tesco, right? That's around here in New York City. So we ask for answers, and we have a meeting coming up in the coming days with some city officials that we're supposed to get some answers about what happened and potentially see this tape. So why I'm bringing that up is not to pat ourselves in the back or big up our chest, but to show that 75 African people exclusively showed up for the death of a single African, right?
Yes, sir.
But
Yes, sir.
those same 75, for whatever the circumstances may be, don't see the interconnectivity between France out of Africa, the United States, and NATO too. They don't see the connectivity that this is the big monster is not just, we're looking not just at the NYPD, New York Police Department. We're looking at these multinational geopolitical countries that have nuclear weapons, are super paramilitaristic and militaristic, right? In a moment's notice can take over any country militarily if that they want, as the problem historically. And that is where, when Africa stands on its own, right, and stands up for itself exclusively, globally, as one unit, right? When the Africa Union would not be taken as a joke or a organization to be laughed at or to be exploited, then the NYPD, London PD, Birmingham PD, LA PD, any other police department in the world will say, you know what? We have to think twice about killing an African person, a black person, because this is going to cause excuse my tree. It's going to cause a shitstorm if this person is valuable, in their country or their people will rise up continually if these things continue to happen. That's why I said organization is the key. Kwame Ture, Stokely Carmichael said, organize, organize, organize. That is the key to not just our liberation, but is the key to any nation's building itself from wherever it may be coming from. And we have to see those interconnectivities.
100%, my brother. Thank you for that beautiful answer. We've got a few questions here. I'm not sure if I'm going to get to all of them for the sake of time.
Maybe one or two. I won't be long this time.
All right, it's cool. But the Mosh asked the question: do we get rid of the USA and Britain after France? I think the answer to that is obvious.
Most certainly. Most certainly, and not just England and France, right? You have to understand that Africa has to look out for itself. There's other countries that are not in the Western bloc, right? But they're in the Eastern bloc, or we have Russia. Russia has tremendous interest. Now, I job with Russia. Africans job with Russia. My uncle got his PhD at Moscow University. They have a university named for Patrice Lumumba. They gave most of the weapons that free South Africa in troops and training and a whole lot of things, right? So there is a partnership, but we still have to understand Africa is for Africans. Same thing with China. China is giving a lot of technical support, but because they want a foot in the door because of the rare earth minerals that the Congo in particular. And let me tell you, people, watch Congo. Watch Congo. There's a lot going on in Congo. I won't say, but because it's unsubstantiated, but study the Congo. There may be some little rumblings going on there. But US, France, out. All of them out. And India too. Watch India too. Watch India too.
100%, Aurora. Thank you for that. And this question is from Nama X. Shakara speaks. Do you this is actually for Brother Nova, so it's tagging me because it's the channel. Do you feel the struggle of Black Americans has inspired blacks globally since 2020? Do you link 2020 with George Floyd and the revolution happening in Africa today?
That's a great question, Brother Nama. You literally have a Pan-African name. He's probably, people don't connect King Narmer or Beni Nasut. We don't say Pharaoh. That's a European word. Beni Nasut Narma with unifying 42 different nations of people in Kemet nearly 3,000 or more so years ago. So Narma, great question. Do I think, I mean, you know, I don't think I look as old as I really am. And I was raised in a certain way. So you have to understand, African people have globally been linked, right? Have been fighting, you know, and I think because we have these wonderful platforms where we can freely express ourselves, right? And to some degree, right? COVID showed us a whole different side of what social media can become, but to a degree and interlink. So I would say yes. I think George Floyd's murder, assassination, and his sacrifice and his life has gone a long way to, you know, put Black people. But I think that kind of like solidified us more in the Western world, right? Africa kind of, you know, for those of you that don't necessarily, you know, travel to, have lived in, you know, Africa is on its own kind of like energy and vibe. And this is a long time coming because some of the young people, many of the young people are watching the Chakaras of the world, are watching us. So yes, I can say there's definitely a correlation. Specifically, I can't say it caused it directly, but I can say there's definitely an influence coming from the Western world, in seeing Black Americans at the center of the empire standing up against white supremacy, white supremacy collectively. That does inspire. I can't say it doesn't. Just like, I mean, look at, you got, you know, I'm gonna go back and tell my age, but you know, people like Public Enemy, Razzcast, Ice Cube, artists like that. When I was a kid, a young guy, they influenced us because of just their words, right? The echo of Malcolm and Garvey and King and all of the great Africans that come before us are echoing in us, and we're living it out. They inspire us every day because not only we praise the ancestors, we are the ancestors.
Yes, sir. Yes,
In
sir.
the
Yes,
mighty
sir.
words of Professor James Smalls, we are the ancestors.
100%.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, my brother. It's necessary to know in relation to this question also that the uprisings against France in Africa have been going on for quite some time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For a significant period of time. Yeah. So, you know, I would say around at least a decade. Like
Yeah.
the
The
recent
CFA issue.
uproar.
That
Yeah, the
CFA
CFA issue. Things there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been going on. And
Yeah.
so and this speaks to the importance of platforms like Got Kush TV and other Pan-African and African-centered media, because the difference with the George Floyd thing is that it became an international issue as propelled through Western media. Yeah. And so we have to bear it in mind that when Africans are rising up against the CFA Franco or so on and so forth, the Western media is not necessarily going to put the same highlights, on those things. Okay. And so, we definitely need to be more in tune with our independent media and be getting news on our own basis, on our own terms, from our own perspective, so that we are in tune with what is going on around the Pan-African world. And we are going to do our best, to make that happen as we grow and develop as a media platform. My brother Nova, thank you very Nana Asadi, thank you very much. You know what I'm saying?
Man.
For joining us. You know, any last words for our viewers?
You know what I'll do? I have a statement from our organization that we cobbled together that and I think it's important. I always think it's important to put things in historical perspective, right? And to call on the right energies, right? I'm Nana Asari as well as Nova Felder. That's why I put both my names. So I have a spiritual duty, right, to protect and educate my people, right? So I just want to read that, and you know, and we can end it on that, because I think what this message that I've written here says speaks to everything, and and kind of distills everything that we spoke about this afternoon, or this evening on your side of the pond, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
When we think of France or the French, we think of bread, we think of cheese and fine wine, champagne, liberty, Charlemagne, the Three Musketeers, Paris, the Eiffel Tower, cognac, Cannes, the south of France, the Louvre, fine paintings, and the European Renaissance. The truth is that all of this has been buttressed on the backs of the working, or the peasant class, enslaved Africans, and the many colonies that France has had and and in many ways still has. France must be remembered for its own truth. We must remember its brutality and duplicitous ways during the Haitian Revolution, the Algerian Wars, and the French Indian Wars here in these United States.
Mm.
The Berlin Conference and the partition of Africa, the CFA Franc, West and North African colonization, the slave trade, North American colonization, as well as its colonies in the Caribbean, and once again, the French Indian Wars. We also must remember the draconian reparations debt that France and its allies imposed on a small yet powerful Haiti. That, in many ways, is still in effect today and has had an effect on Haiti to this day. Today, the
Mm-hmm.
modern Haitis of the world, Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, are vying for their liberty. We stand with them. This is the France, the geopolitical monster of an oppressor that we rail against today. We stand against any actions that France and its allies take against Niger, in Africa, and even against its own working class in France. We are against any actions that France takes that advance the cause of oppression and exploitation of our people. We support the working class, the colonial French citizens that are exploited, and the sovereignty of former French colonies that are still trying to shake off the controlling nature of the French ruling class. It is an it is this imbalance that we attack. We don't only
Mm-hmm.
want France and its allies to pay their fair share for raw materials that countries such as Niger and Mali provide. We want them out of Africa altogether. We also demand that France pays reparations to its former colonies. The French military must immediately leave not only Niger, but all of Africa. We also demand that the French central bank release the billions, if not trillions, of, of euros, dollars, funds that it is stealing from CFA countries. Today,
Mm.
not only Africa is in a new day, the working class, the downtrodden, and the forgotten are standing for their rights every which way we look around the world. We see your weakness, Petit Macron, and the Macrons of the world. We see your weakness. French ruling class, French allies, we see your weakness too. French, leave Africa before we make you leave. I ask that the world, the people of good conscience, Africans globally, people, the working class, boycott French exports. But I also ask the French people to stand with us. And while protesting, wearing yellow jackets, and rallying in Paris and Marseille because of Petit Macron's regime raising the retirement age and other austerity measures taken against the working class, remember that as they exploit you, they exploit others in France as well, outside of France as well. This foreign
Mm-hmm.
exploitation empowers the French ruling class to
Mm.
impoverish and suppress the French working class. Stand with us against your oppressors. At this time, I think it's important that we remember the spirit of the irritated genie that freed Haiti, the spirit that helped free our Haitian brothers over 220 years ago from bondage and brought us into this day. In the words of Bookman, Datim Bookman and Cecil Fatiman, the mother and father of the French Revolution was an act of Pan Africanism. In his mighty words on August 14th, 1791, over 232 years ago, he stated and invoked the God who created the earth, who created the sun that gives us light, the God who holds up the ocean, who makes the thunder roar, our God who has ears to hear, you who are hidden in the clouds, who watch us from where you are. You see all that the white has made us to suffer. The white man's God asked him to commit crimes, but the God within us wants to do good. Our God, who is so good, so just, orders us to revenge our wrongs. It's He who will direct our arms and bring us this victory. It's He who will assist us. We all should throw away the image of the white man's God who is so pitiless, listen to the voice for liberty that speaks in all our hearts. France, NATO, United States, and all their allies and those that don't have good for Africa, get out before we make you get out. And with that, I think I've said it all.
Give thanks, brother. Give thanks. Much appreciated. And know that we're going to have you on again soon, brother, to deal with this and other topics.
Matter of fact,
yes,
I'll be in UK the end of October.
100%. So yeah, we're going to be linking up. So, yeah,
I'll send you the details. You know, our brother Andrew and brother Jason, they're putting some things together, and we're coming out to do some tours and build with you guys. Thank you so much, Shakara. Thank you so much, Mr. Honest, family.
Much appreciated.
Black power and black love.
Black love, my brother. Black power. Thank you very much, my brother. Yes, family, that was brother Nova Felder, and we are going to be interacting with him again soon, so do stay tuned for more of that. Right now, as I conclude this particular session, we are going to go live for Zivanai Live Kings of Weeds is going to start right now on Got Kush TV. So the link for that is in the chat. Feel free to transition over and migrate as the case may be, and we will see you over there. 10-9 Mwali, be thankful unto the Mother, Father, Creative Life Force of the universe. Kudzai Muzima Mukulu, give praises unto our great ancestors. Abibi Tumi, Abibi Fahodi, African power and African liberation for all African people. Share.
Got Kush TV presents Sankofa, The Future of Black History, a unique Black History Month online series exploring all dimensions of time as we chronicle the Black past, command the Black present, and empower the Black future. Workshops include The Future is Black. Why is Black history under attack? With Shakara, We Create Value, the ingenuity of enslaved Africans. With Robin Walker, Ancestral Coding, Agriculture, and the Opobo Library Initiative with Aya Eleni. Quantum Field Theory as African Heritage with Asar Imhotep. For full information including dates and registration, visit gotkushtv.com. We have made history. We are making history. There is history still to be made. Sankofa, The Future of Black History. A Black History Month series not to be missed.